Cooking for Health, a community cooking class brought to you by First Choice Community Healthcare, Agricultura Cooperative Network, La Cosecha, and other valued community partners. Welcome to our low sodium cooking series. Today we're going to enjoy a fresh tomato sauce brought to us by Chef Rosa Zamora.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking for Health. Today we're making a really beautiful fresh tomato sauce, and it only has a few ingredients, and since tomatoes and basil are in season right now, this is a really lovely seasonal dish to make. The theme for this class is salt-free cooking, so we're not going to add any salt to this recipe. You're going to start with a cast iron or non-stick pan. I like the cast iron because I think it chars up really nicely. You're going to do that over medium heat. Our pan is already hot, so you simply take your cherry tomatoes, make sure all the green parts are off, and rinse them, and you're just going to add them to the pan as is. And you can hear the pan is nice and hot, and we're just going to let these cook, and we're going to let them char and blister until they're just turning a little bit black. And so, since we're not adding any salt, we want to think about the other flavors. So the flavors that your mouth detects are salt, sweet, bitter, sour, and umami. So we want to hit all four of your other tastes instead of the salt to kind of excite your palate and still make this a very delicious dish without any salt. So sweet, the tomatoes have a lot of natural sugar in them. They're a sweet vegetable. Sour, the acid in the tomatoes, and then the acid in the tomatoes is going to be our sour. For bitter, you're going to have your little charred black bits that arrive, and also a little bit from the olive oil, which has that kind of very green bitter flavor. And then umami. Tomatoes have a lot of glutamatic acid in it, which is one of the greatest sources of umami. So we're going to hit all of those places on your tongue with a few simple ingredients, and you can see these are starting to cook nicely. And we'll just give them a toss every few minutes to make sure they're cooking evenly. But while our tomatoes are starting to blister, we're going to prep our fresh herbs. So we have 5 cloves of garlic, and I've already peeled that, and we're just going to slice that up. I like to kind of see the visible chunks of garlic in this recipe, but if you don't like that, you can always mince it if you don't want the big slices. But I think that it looks really beautiful, and it brings a lot of flavor to it. So we're just going to carefully slice these. Okay, 2 more. This slice looks a little thick, so we'll go back and get that one more time. Make sure you don't have any that look, yeah, these all look pretty nice and thin, so we're just going to put those back in the bowl till we're ready for them. And then we're just going to check on our tomatoes. You can see how they're starting to get little black bits, so we'll give it a stir. And this recipe goes pretty quickly. It's all fresh ingredients, super delicious. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is chiffonade our basil, which just means to cut into thin ribbons. So what you do is you just take your basil leaves and you stack them up. And then you roll them, and then you just run your knife along the roll. And you can see we get like these beautiful ribbons, and that's exactly what we're looking for. And this is like one bunch of basil that you would get from the grocery store. And then if you have these small leaves, you can just put those in whole. They look really pretty in the finished dish. So any smaller leaves we're just going to leave whole, and the bigger leaves we're just going to continue to chiffonade. So just stack, roll, slice, and fluff. And can you hear that? That was our first tomato exploding. So as they start to burst, we want to keep an eye on them. because while we do want some nice little charred bits, we don't want them to burn. So we'll keep giving that a stir. And I said we're on medium-high heat here. And if you think your tomatoes are burning before they're cooking, then you'll want to turn down your heat a little bit. Everyone's stove is different. And you can see here too, I used a variety of tomatoes. There's a little like yellow ones and the red ones. So if you can get a variety pack of cherry tomatoes, I think that it makes it, you know, more colorful and more flavorful, but really any small tomato will work. And we'll just keep working through. This is a lot of basil. But like I said, since we're not using salt, we really want to get a lot of other flavors in there. And the freshness of the herbs really goes a long way too in helping flavor this dish. I mean, this is just like the perfect summer meal. We're almost there. So keep just picking out these smaller leaves, stacking the bigger leaves. There's a few escaped, that's okay. Keep checking your tomatoes. And you can see here how they start to squish down and let go of their juices. That's what we're looking for on all the tomatoes. So some of our smaller ones are starting to do it, and so we just want to keep an eye on them. And just keep letting them cook down. Oh, we missed a few leaves here, that's okay. We're almost through all of the basil here. Okay. There's just 2 more leaves in here. Okay. So you can see we have this really beautiful fluffy pile of basil, and it's going to stay really fresh because we didn't chop it too much. Okay, so we have our garlic, our basil, and I also have a little bit of red pepper flake that we're going to use to spice this with. You can also just use fresh cracked black pepper if you like, or really any pepper you like. So let's just keep working on these tomatoes. And you can see now how they're all starting to kind of fall apart and get wrinkly, and that's exactly what we're looking for. And then using your spoon or tongs, just keep stirring them, but also you can start, the ones that are getting wrinkly, you can start kind of mushing them down so they kind of cook. And then when this is all, when the sauce is done, I am going to cook this, I'm going to toss this with some pasta that I have pre-cooked. I really like this with a capellini or angel hair pasta. But if you are not doing gluten or you're eating less carbs, this is really good. You can make some zucchini noodles, or you could even just do like a bunch of roasted veggies, onions, eggplant, zucchini, and toss it with this sauce. And it would be really good, give you kind of like a ratatouille feeling on that. This is gonna, you can see that some of these are still really firm, so we gotta just give that a little more time. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and we just let these tomatoes keep cooking. You can see that they're all burst now. And you can see that the tomatoes kind of starting to cook down and getting a little bit jammy. And this is exactly how we want them to look before we start adding our other ingredients. We are going to lower the heat just a little bit now down to medium-low. And then you're just going to add all of your fresh herbs. So the garlic goes in. And you just want to cook the garlic till you can smell it. You just want it to be fragrant. You want it to cook, but you don't want it to burn because then it gets too bitter. Okay, I'm starting to smell that garlic now, so now we'll add the basil. Okay, and just stir that all in. Same thing, you just want it to kind of wilt. You don't want it to cook too much because the great thing about this recipe is that it is just so fresh. And then we're also going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil right now. And that's partially why we lowered the heat, because olive oil doesn't have a very high smoking point, and so we don't want it to get too hot, because then you lose a lot of those like really good fats and the things in the olive oil that are heart healthy. So we're just going to stir that in, and you can see how the sauce is really starting to come together. We're also going to add just a little bit of red pepper flake just for a little heat. You can add more or less according to your taste. And the sauce is pretty much done at this point. So we're going to go ahead and add some pasta. This pasta is pre-cooked, but you want to make sure that it's still a little bit undercooked, because it's going to continue to cook in the sauce. So you just want to take it out a few minutes early and just really get the sauce all in there. And like I said earlier, you can do zucchini or you can do roasted vegetables. You could do this over polenta. Really, it's up to you. This sauce would also probably taste pretty good on top of some like toasted bread. It's just a really nice seasonal low salt recipe. And then if your sauce seems a little thick, you can add just a tiny bit more olive oil or a little bit of water. Oh yeah, that looks perfect. Okay, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Tune in for the next fun and healthy recipe from Cooking for Health.